Hey folks, Sean here, and in this episode, I want to talk to you about why you should never start a B2B SaaS with more than a single feature. Now, this gets into the concept that I've talked about from time to time around what a micro SaaS business or product ultimately is. I consider that to be when you turn a feature into a product, as in you only really have one core piece of functionality for your product at its foundation. Now, a question is, why might you want to do this? Well, we don't have enough time for me to share everything that I would like to say about that, but there are a lot of reasons. The most important of which are that it's so much easier to market and for your target market to understand what it does. It's also considerably easier for them to use because your product, like a simple tool, is easy for them to figure out which problem does it help them solve and how does it solve it. Right? Big, complicated software like Salesforce, for example, very difficult to figure out how to use whatever it is that product does. And oftentimes it can be difficult to figure out whether or not that product solves a problem that I have because it seemingly does everything. Fortunately, because of that, most people consider products like that to not really solve anything. And I understand that that seems a little bit counterintuitive, but it's because it's so hard to figure out how to get a complex product to solve a problem that you have right now, right? Most people do not have 100 problems that they're trying to solve all at once. In reality, even if people are thinking like that, people have a top problem that they're trying to solve right now. And it's way more efficient to solve problems one at a time than it is to try to solve them all at once. And whether or not your users and customers are aware of this, that's how they typically act. As such, building a product as a single feature gives you a tremendous amount of advantages. And that's on the hard part side, which is the marketing, the sales aspect, the positioning, the branding, getting all of that right. You're going to make your life so much easier if you start very simple. Now, let's talk about on the build design side. Reason why this is such an advantage when you're designing and building a solution is because more than likely, if you try to do too much, not only are you going to get it wrong, but you're going to add unnecessary functionality that your customers and your users more than likely just don't need or don't need yet or might not need at all. The more you build into your product without testing it with actual users and customers, the more likely you are to build in the wrong direction. In reality, what we want to do is build with our users, which means starting somewhere, ideally in an area which is solving their top problem or attempting to do so, and then getting the product into their hands to see whether or not we were right and to essentially measure how accurate our assumptions were. Now, if it turns out we were close, they will start using it. They will start paying for it because you are helping them with solving a real problem. Now, if that happens, then you can start interacting with them to figure out in which direction should you go next. But if instead you try to guess all this stuff right out of the gate and think, oh, they're going to want this, they're going to want that, you're going to get it wrong. And the more you do that, the harder it is going to be to understand even what your product is, how they can use it, and what problem that it solves. You're going to build in a direction like a Salesforce, and you're going to experience a lot of difficult problems like they do that they have to throw a ton of money and a ton of bodies at to try to solve and overcome. So you're going to create a lot of your own problems. So keep it simple, especially in the beginning. You're going to do yourself and your customer a lot of favors.